Los, thanks for joining us for our online service tonight.
I'm Danny, I'm the high school pastor. If you don't know me, we're glad that you're here joining with us.
I'm Pastor Ross, the middle school pastor. Again, we're glad that you're joining with us. It's online tonight, but in 1 week, we'll be back in person.
Yes, it's going to be awesome. We'll be able to run around this area that's new, and then we'll join together in worship. So it'll be a lot of fun.
See you next Wednesday, 6 o'clock for middle school.
7:15 for high school. See you then.
Hey, good afternoon, students. Super pumped that you joined us for the online message here at New Vision. It's going to be a blast. I'm super excited that they've asked me to speak, and I get to speak with you guys. We're going to have a really good time. I know it's online, but I'm still excited that you're here. I want to talk about one of my favorite things of all time, and that's Star Wars. Not only do I want to talk about Star Wars, one of my favorite things of all time, I want to talk about my favorite scene from my favorite Star Wars movie. So it's my favorite scene from my favorite movie from my favorite franchise of all time. I am pumped. I actually got the chance to go see this movie, Empire Strikes Back. I'll go ahead and spoil that for you. Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, episode number 5. I got to go and see that in the movie theater just over a year ago because Megan, my fiance, she took me to see this movie in the movie theater for my birthday. And I remember this scene comes on. It's on the big screen, and I'm watching it on the big screen for the first time. I've never seen this movie in theaters. I was not born when it came out, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it on the theater screen for the first time, and I'm looking up, and this scene hits, and I get goosebumps. I mean, it gave me chills. It was an amazing moment, and we were the only people in the movie theater because it was on like a Tuesday afternoon, so nobody was going to see a movie. And I remember it almost brought me to tears just getting to see this on the movie theater screen. So if you don't like Star Wars, I get that. I get it. It's okay. Just bear with me. Watch this. So it's very special to me. So watch it for me if you want to. But it's gonna get a little weird really quickly. There's this little green frog, and he's talking to a grown human man, and there are robots around, and they're in a swamp. So it's a lot at once to take in. But just bear with me and watch it. It's gonna have a lot of implications on what we're gonna be talking about this morning. So watch this scene. We'll rejoin here in just a second.
No. We'll never get it out now.
So certain are you? Always with you what cannot be done. Do you nothing that I say?
Master, moving stones around is one thing. This is totally different.
No, no different. Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
I can't. It's too big.
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you? And where you should not. For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is. Life creates it. Makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship.
You want the impossible. I don't believe it.
That is why you fail.
Like I said, I stand by. That's one of the greatest scenes ever put to film. That is one of the best scenes in any movie, and I challenge you to prove me wrong. I love that scene because while I like to think of myself as Yoda, right? Like I like to pretend that I'm the wise old man who's helping to teach other people new things and to help them to learn and to grow in themselves so that they can become the hero that they were born to be. Like that's who I want to be, but I'm Luke, like easy. I'm Luke wholeheartedly. I'm the guy who can't do it. Right? I go to actually do the thing and I drop it. I do that all the time. I'm so clumsy. I want to be Yoda, but I'm just not. I'm Luke. I see myself in this situation and I look at what I can do. I look at what's possible, and to me it seems impossible. I look at things that are too hard, and to me they're impossible. And I think we all do that a little bit, right? I can't be the only one here. I think we all look at these hard situations in our lives and we look at them and we say, that's impossible. That's not something that is the realm of what I can do. That's completely out of something that I can handle. And we do that a lot in our day-to-day life. Things are too big for us. They're too hard for us. They're impossible. All these things are rattling around in our heads at like every situation. And it's not always for hard stuff either. Sometimes it's the first day of school. That's impossible. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. Sometimes it's making friends. That's impossible. I don't know how I'm going to do this. It happens in every avenue of our lives. Things seem overwhelming and things seem way too hard for us to go through. And then there are things that are like really, really difficult. There are things in your life that happen and it's like life shattering and you don't know what you're going to do next. And it genuinely feels like something that you have no escape from. This is a story about my mom. My mom has a severe disability. She was born with cerebral palsy. It's basically a disability that affects the way her brain communicates with her muscles. So she has trouble walking. She has trouble just with her motor skills, her fingers, and even speaking to an extent. And she's just kind of had that her whole life. And she was told a lot of things. As she was growing up, she was told that she would never get married. She was told that she would never live or lead any sort of normal life. She was told that she would never have a family, have kids, but she did, right? I'm here. I'm her family. She got married. She went to college. She graduated. She's done all of these amazing things in her life. When COVID hit, it was sort of challenging because she lives in a nursing facility, and when COVID hit, things got really tough because I didn't get to see my mom for 15 months total. And right around month 12 of this 15, I guess she just got really bored because she told me, she was like, I want to start cross-stitching. And I remember thinking to myself, you want to do what? Like you want to what now? You want to cross-stitch? You don't know, cross-stitching is like weaving things together to make a picture, and I just don't think that's something that you would be able to do. So I told her, I was like, look, Mama, I don't think that's going to work out. I think you're going to be wasting your money if you buy this kit to cross-stitch and you do that. But if you want to do it, it's on you, but I don't think that's possible. And I told her that. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. And she, the first time I got to see my mom after all this COVID stuff was at my sister's graduation. My sister graduated high school, and my mom got to come to the graduation party. It was the first time I got to see her, and she hands my sister this gift. My sister goes, and she opens it, and she looks inside, and inside of that wrapped package, that gift that my sister has for my mom is a cross-stitched picture of a cow. And when I tell you my jaw hit the floor, because I genuinely didn't believe that she had the ability to do that. And once again, that's on me. That was me being a horrible son, but I didn't believe that she could pull it off, but she did, and it looks great. Here's a picture of it. She went all out, and she put her mind to it, and she set a goal, and she accomplished that goal. And that's one of the things that I've always loved and respected about my mother, is she's never not strived to reach her goals. But I don't always do that. That's not something that I inherited. Sometimes when I see something that's an obstacle that's hard for me to overcome, I'm very pessimistic about it. I don't want to challenge. I don't want to try because I think I'm going to fail. And I get so scared of failure that I will turn around and just straight up ignore the thing that I could walk through. The point here is this: we don't always believe that the impossible can be done, but we serve an impossible God. Not only that, we have an impossible God inside of us. He lives in me, and yet I still don't think I can accomplish these things that I don't see as possible. I want to talk about a story today, and it's one of my all-time favorites from the Bible. This was my favorite VeggieTales episode when I was a kid, but it's the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or Shad, Messy, and Ben, as we'll call them today. We're going to watch a little video on them in just a second, because I could just go through the whole story and tell you the whole thing from beginning to end, but that would be boring, and I'll just play the video, and you'll be much more entertained. The crazy thing about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is the area that they were in was not theirs. So they're God's people. They came over, they lived, they were God's chosen people. And what happened somewhere along the line in the timeline of the Old Testament of the Bible is a guy named Nebuchadnezzar comes in and he takes the people from their homes, he takes the Israelites and he moves them over to his land and he sets them up, and they start living there. They're allowed to worship freely to an extent. They're allowed to have their own jobs to an extent, but for the most part, they're not in their homes. And so when Nebuchadnezzar, he sets all of this up, and three of the guys who were there were our boys, Shad, Messy, and Ben. And so they set up and they're living their lives, and they actually get in pretty good favor with the king, doing their own thing. They're sort of representatives for God's people, for the Israelites. So we're going to watch this video. You're going to hear how the rest of the story unravels. It's a little messy. Things get kind of rough for our guys, but we'll join back up here in just a second.
Sometime after Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego began to serve in the court of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, the king had a golden statue of himself made. The massive 90-foot tall statue stood as a monument to Nebuchadnezzar's power and greatness. The king ordered all the leaders of Babylon to come together for the dedication of the enormous idol. On the day of the dedication ceremony, all the leaders of Babylon gathered by the golden statue of King Nebuchadnezzar. A herald announced to the crowd that they were to bow down and worship the statue when the music began. Anyone who did not do as commanded would be thrown into a furnace of fire. So when the sound of music from the trumpets, harps, flutes, bagpipes, and all sorts of instruments was heard, everyone bowed down before the statue. Everyone, that is, except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. A group of the king's advisors noticed that these three young Jewish men did not bow down and worship the statue. Jealous of the power the king had bestowed on these exiles from Jerusalem, the advisors went to the king to tell him of the men's disobedience. When King Nebuchadnezzar heard that they refused to bow to the statue, he became furious. In a rage, he had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego brought to him to answer for their disobedience. He told them that if they continued to refuse to bow down and worship the statue, he would have them thrown into the furnace of fire. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego held to their faith. They told the king, "The God we serve will deliver us from the fiery furnace." King Nebuchadnezzar had heard enough. He ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than normal. His soldiers tied up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and led them to the furnace. As the doors of the furnace were opened, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown in, the heat and flames overpowered the soldiers, and they died on the spot. King Nebuchadnezzar looked into the furnace, and to his amazement, he saw that the 3 young men were unharmed. Then the king noticed something even more amazing. In disbelief, he asked his advisors to confirm, that there were supposed to be only 3 people in the fire. After his advisors agreed with him, the king said, "I see 4 men walking unhurt and unbound in the fire, and one of them looks like the Son of God." Nebuchadnezzar called for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to come out of the fire. He was so in awe of what he had seen, he praised the God of the 3 young men and declared that anyone who spoke against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be killed. The king said, "There is no other God who is able to rescue in this way." Then the king promoted the 3 young men to high positions in his kingdom.
Now, I want to go back and read a couple parts from this story really quickly because I think now that we know the whole story, these parts will stand out a little bit to us. Daniel 3, verse 16 through 18. If you got your Bibles, I'm going to put it up on the screen. That's cool too. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we don't need to defend ourselves before you, for if we're thrown into the blazing furnace, the God who we serve is able to save us. He'll rescue us from your power, your majesty, but even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up." That's crazy to me. The fact that these guys are willing to just take the king, look him square in the face, and cut him down and talk to him this way is baffling to me. Verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we don't need to defend ourselves before you." Nebuchadnezzar, the guy in charge, the actual king of the land you're living in, you kind of do need to defend yourself against him because he's the scary guy. He's the guy who has the ability to light up the oven to toss you into it. Nebuchadnezzar is the scariest person there. He's the one who is going to hurt you if you don't do what he says. So they just snap on him kind of like that. They're like, yeah, we don't need to defend ourselves. Don't worry about it. Verse 17, "If we're thrown into the blazing furnace, the God who we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty." I love that, your majesty, because it sounds almost a little sassy. It's like, yeah, God will rescue us from your power, your majesty. I love it. But I mean, think about that, right? This guy, Nebuchadnezzar, he comes up to Shad, Messi, and Ben, and he says, "Look, if you don't do what I say, if you don't bow down to the statue of me and worship me," because Nebuchadnezzar thought of himself as a god, "if you don't bow down to my statue and if you don't worship me, I'm going to throw you in the oven." Not only that, it's going to be a hot oven. I'm going to make this oven real hot, and I'm going to toss you and your homies right into there where you can burn to a crisp and die. And they look at him and they say, "The God who we serve is able to save us." That's an impossible situation. It is. The king comes to you and says, "Look, if you don't do what I say, you're going in the oven." And you've got your God here, right? The God who we worship, the God who we serve is here, and he's saying to worship him and only him. But Nebuchadnezzar, the guy with the really hot oven, is over here, and he's saying to worship him. So you've got to make up your mind. You've got to choose, who are you going to put your trust in? I mean, you're between a rock and a hard place. This is the titular impossible situation. This is where things get tough. This is where you make up your mind. You either worship Nebuchadnezzar and your life here on earth is safe, or you worship God. So you have to make up your mind over what it is you believe. And I love what they say. They say the God we serve is able to save us. They say, yeah, Nebuchadnezzar, I get it. You've got a really hot stove. Proud of you, buddy. But the God we serve is able to save us. And he will save us. But in verse 18, things get a little more dicey, because even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up. So what they're saying here is, even if God leaves us in that fire, even if you toss us in the fire and God leaves us there, we will still worship him because he has a reason for leaving us there. Man, that's tough. Right? Because I want this story to go, God saves us from the fire, point blank, period. That's it. But it actually goes, God saves us from the fire, that's great. If God leaves us in the fire, that's great. We're going to worship God. You do your own thing. And I don't like that situation. I don't like that scenario because I want God to save us from the fire every time. I want him to pull me out every time I'm in there. As we look at this, I want to go back to the earlier video we watched with Yoda, and I want to break down some of the quotes from that and how they apply here. The first one that this is a common thing that I say, right? Moving stones around is one thing, but this is totally different. I mean, how many times have you looked at something and said, well, God helped me here, but this is completely different. You look at this story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and you look at it and you say, God was in the furnace with them. Jesus was in the middle of the fire with them. They were saved, but this is totally different. The God who saved them from the fire isn't the same God who can save me from my situation. The God who saved them from the fire, he doesn't work the same way as he does now. He can't save me from that. My situation is different and I'm stuck in it, so I've got to ignore that. I've got to ignore the past situations. I can't rely on what God has done before because now things are different. We think God can help us in certain situations, but not in others, and that leaves us in a state of being stuck. We're stuck. We don't know what to do. Things are still impossible because God can't help us in this situation. It's different. The response to that is, it's only different in our minds. The God who saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is the same God who now lives inside of you. The God who was there in the middle of the fire with them is inside of you, living, working through you, to help reach other people, to help show other people hope. That God is there for you. Those impossible situations, he's faced countless. And he's right there within you. The second thing that we say is, or the second quote that I want to lean into is, you must unlearn what you have learned. This is one of my all-time favorite just life quotes. I love this. You have to unlearn what you have learned. See, I think a lot of times, at least for me, I only half trust God, because I will say I trust God with this thing, but with this thing I'm gonna hold on to it. Like, this thing is mine. I want to keep that for myself. God, you have this plan, and you have this plan for my life, and this is what you want me to do, but that thing seems really hard, so if it doesn't work out, I've got my own in my back pocket. Right, God, I'm in this impossible situation, and you have left me in the fire, right? Remember what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said? Sometimes God will leave us in the middle of what seems like an impossible situation, and God, I want you to bring me through it, but if you don't, here's my backup plan. God, if your plan doesn't work out, I've got my own plan to pull this off. And I think we do that a lot because we've got all these things that we've learned in our head about the way the world should work, about the way that we should work, about the things that we want to do or what we like to do. We've learned all of those things. And until we unlearn that, God's not really going to be able to work through us to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Because see, God's got a plan, and he wants us to be the tools in his plan, so he's going to work through us. But to do that, he's got to be able to teach us. And if we've got all these things that we've learned already in our heads, how is God going to be able to teach us? And then easily the most famous quote, probably definitely from that movie. One of the most famous quotes from Star Wars period is, do or do not, there is no try. Do or do not, there is no try. When we go back to verse 18, but even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that we have set up. We get into the middle of that fire, and when we do that, we fail to remember who's in there with us. We get into that fire, and we look at the situation, and we say, God, I'm stuck in here, and there's nobody here to save me. I'm all alone. I'm all by myself. God, where are you? Where's your protection? Where's your brilliantness? Where's your glory when I'm here in this impossible situation and I can't think of or find a way out? God, where are you? He's in there with you. He may just be walking through the fire with you, but he's in there with you. The last quote I want to talk about is, you want the impossible. It's one of the things that is said to Yoda right before Yoda lifts that ship out of the water, right before Yoda sits his little frog self down on a log, holds out his hand, and out comes this huge ship. The thing that Luke had been trying to do the whole scene, Yoda just sits there and he just does it. You want the impossible. And I think sometimes we look at God when he leaves us in the middle of these situations, when he has us walking through the fire, when God has left us in the middle of whatever it is that we're going through. We look at God and we say, you want me to go through that? Why haven't you pulled me out of this? You want me to do something that's impossible. We're stuck. We don't know what to do. We're in the middle of just nothingness and we're alone. But God's there. And he has been the whole time. Just like the power to lift that ship was in Luke the whole time he was there, God's power is in you. It's right in your heart. God lives within you, but we so frequently forget that, and we're so frequently stuck because we don't realize just the power that we have within us. And he's there, I promise. He will get you through whatever it is that you're going through. God has a purpose and a plan for your life because he is perfect and he created us on purpose for purpose. So don't forget the power that you have. Here's one of the cool things we get to do with this being an online message, and I want you guys to do this if you can. There's right down in this description, or if you're watching on YouTube, right down there's a download link to a picture. And it's a wallpaper that you can use on your phone. I like to use mine on my lock screen. And go back and reference that. Whenever you're in the middle of an impossible situation, whenever you're stuck, whenever you don't know your way out, whenever you are alone, look back at that picture. Just click on your phone and it'll be right there if you set it as your lock screen. And remember that the God who you serve is able to save you from whatever fire you're walking through. No matter how hot, 7 times hotter than usual, the God who you serve is able to pull you through. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, students. Just a couple announcements really quickly. This coming Sunday, Sunday the 8th, that is Promotion Sunday for small groups at church. So when you come, you will move up to your proper grade, whatever it is that you're going into. That will be your grade for the year. We're super pumped about that. And then this coming Wednesday, so not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, that is August the 11th, is Promotion Wednesday. So we're moving up then too. If you're in middle school, you'll get to move up to high school and you'll get to start going to that high school service. It's gonna be awesome. So thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble on for 30 minutes about Star Wars, and I really hope that something comes to your situation, whatever impossible situation you're in. I hope this maybe helped you through it. Let's pray real quick and then we'll be done. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for the students who logged on to watch this and to experience this moment with you. Thank you for letting us leave smarter than we came in. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your son, Jesus. In your holy name we pray. Amen.